Step 4 is really understanding the difference between what your needs are when you go to buy a home and what your wants are. And this is really, I'm going to kind of push this back in your court, Sandy, because as a loan officer, you obviously have to determine the loan program you want, but the needs and wants really have to do with the house.
Absolutely.
So how do you walk a first-time buyer through that process of understanding what they really need versus what they want? Because in many cases today, the first-time buyer wants a lot more than they can really afford.
Well, and that's where, getting started with a realtor and being pre-approved really comes in handy. Because first thing we're going to do is just sit down and talk about what you need. I mean, you may have 3 children, you may need 4 bedrooms.
Sure.
I mean, that's a need. You may want a big fancy gourmet kitchen, but your budget may not quite allow for that. Maybe it allows for that, and then you could do the remodel, after the kids go to bed. That's where the needs versus wants come. So really understanding, I really want to know, what your actual needs are, and as we get started within your price range or what you're, willing to pay for a house or able to pay for a house, then we compare those wants. This has a fancy kitchen, this doesn't. I want that house over this house, but as long as it meets your needs.
Understanding that there are upfront expenses when you go to buy a home. It surprises me as I work with first-time buyers when I say, well, when you go to contract on a home, you'll have to write an earnest money check, you'll have to write a due diligence check, you may pay for a home inspection upfront, sometimes that's at closing, right? It can be done both ways, right, Preston?
That's correct.
And then you're going to have to pay for the appraisal upfront. Sandy, tell us about earnest money and due diligence, just briefly what it is and why the buyer has to be prepared to pay up front.
Okay, after you've contracted on the home to buy, there are 2 components to that deposit or that, this is telling the seller you seriously want to buy the house, and this is really your skin in the game in our market. It's now made up of 2 components. You have a right to inspect the home. This is a period that the realtor establishes, the seller agrees upon, and you're actually paying for that right. To take the house on the market and to look at it. And again, this is your skin in the game. If you contracted on a home you loved, but the foundation was rotten, it's also your hold harmless money. You're allowed to walk away.
Right.
But should you purchase the home, it comes back to you. So this is really your deposit on the house. So your due diligence and your earnest money is made of 2 components. One, a due diligence fee made directly to the seller. They actually deposit that check, and that's important to know because your lender is going to want to see
Thank you.
that check is cleared as he's preparing your final paperwork to close. And your earnest money deposit is held in escrow, typically with the buyer's firm.